Do you find yourself having tears for days, crying all the time for seemingly strange reasons and in inopportune places? Well, today we're diving into the nature and benefits of emotional tears. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to tell if you are crying too much. Welcome, I'm Katie Smith, and this is Maybe You Can Relate. This is a space where women get real about real life and the lessons that shape us. This is where resiliency rules and where we're rooted by faith and where we radiate because of gratitude and grace. So grab your chai, your Coke, or your Chardonnay, take a deep breath and settle in. We're going to have a great time. So my big sister Kim and I are self-professed crybabies. We cry on a dime. It really doesn't matter what the situation is. If it brings up strong emotion, we are crying about it. I sometimes think that maybe I'm overly emotional, but then I think, well, maybe this is bigger than me. And it's really nice to think that maybe there's a genetic reason that I might be a crybaby. Also, my family, my husband and sons, they love to get the Christmas or birthday money shot from mom. That is always of me crying in response to some amazingly sentimental gift that they have gotten me. It is a whole sport in my house, and I have to admit I love it. Also, I'm the friend that if you're crying, I'm totally crying along with you. It's just that I'm a sentimental fool and I don't want anybody to cry alone. And usually whatever they're talking about that's moving them is moving me. My sweet husband, he always carries around a hanky because he knows inevitably whether we're watching a movie or going to a show or any of the kids' events, listening to a sermon, listening to new music, if I'm reading a book, watching SNL, could be a reel, I'm inevitably going to cry, and he is ready. I've always felt life and humanity deeply. Life's small stuff and big stuff, it moves me. Art and music move me. Celebration and joy, stress and anxiety, anger and frustration, hilarity and goofiness, they all move me. Sentiment and nostalgia moves me. Grief and loss move me. Fear and confusion move me. The fingerprints of God and new life move me. Children and family move me. Injustice and disharmony move me. And they all move me to tears. So recently at work, my tears have become a thing. I know many people say you're supposed to leave your home life at the door once you walk into work. But let's be real. As a woman, and especially as a mother, that is not happening. Okay? I live authentically no matter where I'm at. But what I'm learning to do is titrate and moderate the level of authenticity that and exposure that other people get from me, depending on where I am. I'm just always going to show up unapologetically as me, the whole me, not just parts and sections. So at work, I'm being successful at what Cat Williams encouraged us to do in the Pimp Chronicles, at getting 16 haters before summer arrives. If you don't know, I've put a link in the description so that you can know. I'm consistently stepping more fully into my skills at work and shining. Consequently, launching a new phase of this hater collection mission that I'm on. And it's put me in the hot seat because a hater's job, after all, is to hate. Calibrating authenticity of self while navigating interpersonal professional terrain, while engaging in political dynamics, is not for the faint of heart. but that is where I find myself. And of course, it's landed me in meetings where tears have made their appearance. And of course, they have been weaponized against your girl. Now, I'm labeled as emotionally turbulent or overly emotional. Recently, after one such unpleasant meeting, I advocated for myself and I offered my boss that maybe instead of seeing the tears as weakness, that there's a strong possibility that they are in fact my superpower. Now, because I value self-reflection and personal growth, and I do strive for balance in my life, I am not afraid to entertain the idea that I might be overly emotional. But if on the emotional spectrum, I'm a self-admitted crybaby, then am I overly emotional? And consider where I am in my life. I'm in the thick of a major grief process after losing my mother early this year. It's a grief unlike anything I have ever known. I'm the mother of a preteen and a young adult. I'm in the throes of menopause and a member of the We Do Not Care Club. If you don't know about that club, go ahead and check out the link in the description. You will not be disappointed. And every day, it seems that I wake up in a living nightmare that is the current state of events of our nation and world. My peace is my priority, and if shedding a few tears at inappropriate times is what's required to maintain it, I'm okay with that. It's okay with me. But let's also be real. Too much of a good thing is just that too, right? So let's get on and talk about our tears. So we have two different types of tears. We have emotional tears and we have biological tears. Emotional tears are those tears that make your eyes turn red and they sting and they make them swell and you need, the compresses and things after you've cried the emotional tears. Unless they're happy tears, there are some studies that show that happy tears don't sting. So that's an interesting little tidbit. And of course, biological tears are our body's way of protecting us, right? Like if there's dust in your eye or there's some sort of irritation, then your eyes are going to tear up as a lubricant and really a protective system. But we're talking about emotional tears. So emotional tears have psychological and emotional benefits, such as stress relief, mood enhancement, emotional processing, and social bonding. This is how they work. And we are so divinely designed that our Creator put all these messaging systems in us so that we could really take care of ourselves and ask for what we need. So I think that that's amazing. So emotional tears happen for a variety of reasons, and they can be predictable or they may not be predictable, and that's completely normal. When they happen, your body is telling you that you need a moment of care, and it's helping you to process complex feelings that you're experiencing in the moment. And it doesn't make you too sensitive or overly emotional. So what they do, the process of crying the emotional tears resets the nervous system in order to calm you and make you feel better. So don't fight the tears. Learn to work with them instead. Because emotional tears happen when you're feeling something deeply, and they're about your inner world and your inner processing that are triggered by your emotions. So let's talk about 5 different benefits that emotional tears provide in increasing our personal well-being. First of all, don't hide or apologize for your tears, because that is a shame-based response to a divinely designed mechanism that helps provide you comfort and stability emotionally. So your tears, your emotional tears, help regulate your nervous system. So crying will usually shift your breathing pattern by slowing your inhales and maybe even making you sob or sigh. You know how that goes, right? And so your nervous system is actively working to help you move through that. Number 2, it will release the stress hormones, and you might actually feel lighter after having cried. And it's built in a way for your body to cope with emotional stress. You know that a tear shed in grief feels different than a tear shed in happiness. So there is this regulatory system within your nervous system that has your body know the difference between the tears, which is just fascinating. And the tears become a catharsis for your body to go in and work and do the health and healing work on its own. But it's a signal. So the tears increase connection and empathy because they are a signal to others that something important is happening with you. And most people will respond with care to that signal. And then it's a powerful moment of connection when people tend your tears. And they improve your mood. They create a sense of relief because the yuck gets unstuck. The tears are catharsis. And this is especially true when tears are allowed to flow without shame or interruption. This is why my favorite place to cry really is the shower, right? It's like a whole release with the water and allowing the tears to become a part of the water and just wash away all the struggles or whatever you're crying about. I also have been thinking about songs that we have so many songs that are like crying or tear related. I was thinking about There's a Tear in My Beer from Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr., One Last Cry by Brian McKnight, All Cried Out, Lisa and the Cult Jam. Come on, back in 1992, we were all singing that one. Probably a little earlier than that, right? Crying by Aerosmith. So I'm curious what your favorite song title or song was about crying or tears. Go ahead and drop those in the comments. I'm curious to see what we come up with. But the last way that it helps the emotional well-being is that they provide emotional clarity. This is huge because it helps you tune in with yourself, and it acts as a compass, pointing you towards what matters most to you and even what is hard for you to articulate in words that the tears are a symbol for. So it really allows you to get real with you. So how do we work with our tears? There are some tips that can support the well-being that they provide. Because emotional tears may show up quietly, or they might arrive like a tidal wave. Regardless, they're there to tell you something, so you paying attention is critical. Try not to judge your tears. Instead, embrace them as the signal they are. First, stop, pause, and notice what's happening. Try to avoid analyzing or suppressing your tears if you can help it. Instead, just notice and ask yourself where you feel the emotion in your body and what thoughts are circling for you. You could also just put your hand on your chest and silently say, "This is emotion moving through me. It's okay to feel this." Giving yourself permission to feel all the feels is a really healthy approach to life in general, but then to be able to have this well-being that the emotional tears provide. Number 2, find a safe space to let the tears flow. It's true, not every space that we encounter is going to be appropriate for tears. That's probably a little bit arguable, but for the sake of what we're doing today, let's just say that some places are more appropriate than others appropriate. So we might cry in less ideal places than others, right? So like I said, I love the shower, but probably not in the work meeting, right? I didn't love that. So whenever possible, give yourself privacy to feel your feelings fully by stepping outside, finding a private space, going into a restroom stall for just a few minutes. And if privacy isn't available to you, just go ahead and turn your body away from people to give yourself a little bit more seclusion to have your tears. To be clear, this is not about shame, because there's nothing wrong with your tears. It's just that your tears and your moments where you're crying are personal. So you want to protect the fact that they are yours, and you want to choose where you share them. I was thinking along the lines of my mother's funeral, or times of collective grief like the Challenger explosion or JFK or 9/11, where if you'll remember back to any of those moments, if you were alive then, that collectively we cried, and there was a power in that. That was a moment where shedding tears publicly was cathartic for everyone, and there was this shared collective grief that was empowering and created a closeness and community because we were all suffering the same trauma at the same time. Number 3, support your body in the experience. So crying is a physical experience. Your face, your shoulders, your breath all get involved in the act of crying. So once those tears slow down, you want to check in with your body and find ways to soothe it, like stretching, having a glass of water, purposefully relaxing. Like I always remind myself, drop your shoulders, Katie, drop your shoulders. These small acts can signal to your body that you're safe, because it is a response to feeling unsafe, your tears. Next, you want to name the feeling, if you can, that you're feeling that the tears are symbolic for. Naming what you're feeling can help you start the process of dealing with your emotions. So recently, I had a conversation about that unpleasant work meeting with one of my friends, and she was asking me some really poignant questions around why I had felt so upset. And she asked me to name what was happening. And I said that I had identified the feeling of feeling threatened, of being threatened. And as we talked through it, I realized that that was a trigger from childhood, and she said this brilliant thing. She said, the people may be gone, but the programming persists. So the things that we do to try to keep ourselves safe in oftentimes childhood that might trigger tears in a unrelated situation will show itself because the body doesn't know the difference, really. I thought that was really interesting. Number 5, notice your inner voice. Tears usually trigger internal commentary, like, I'm too sensitive. What's wrong with me? I relate to that deeply. But that voice isn't helpful, is it? Especially if we're trying not to shame having tears. So talk to yourself in those moments, and always like you would a close friend. Okay? Compassionate self-talk is critical and really helps to soften the intensity of the moment. And then one of my favorite techniques, I think it's so important, is to then journal it out. Writing can help you make sense of what came up with the tears. But try to avoid trying to fix the problem or solve it in the moment. Just try to communicate it in the journal, flesh it out, and aim to get it out of your body and onto the page. It's the continuation of the work that the tears started. So in that story I was telling you about just a minute ago, that gave me insight. And I was able to take that insight and talk to my therapist about it. And now I have some journaling prompts based on the insights it's provided from my therapist, whom I love, to do further exploration and emotional connectivity to things that aren't seemingly connected, but the triggers did connect them. And then ask for some kindness from those that you trust in your life. Let yourself need and let yourself ask and be safe to do so. And then give yourself a gentle exit ramp. After the tears stop, you could feel raw or even disoriented. Can you relate? Crying is basically an emotional workout. Often I am exhausted after a good cry, an ugly cry, right? So to cool yourself down or to do some grounding is essential after you've had that emotional workout through the cry. So try washing your face, like getting back into your body, listening to a soft song, anything that's of your senses, right? Eating something nourishing like an apple. Okay, but rest and restoration is going to be critical after you have had this moment of catharsis and you have cried things out. You need to rest so that things can process. That might look like sleep. That might look like watching a movie so that your mind is off something. But whatever you're prompted to do, taking a walk, going for a coffee, it really is about rest and restoration and recovery from that emotional workout that you just had through that cry. So let's get down to the bottom of some of these questions that we have about crying now that we know the benefits of the emotional tears and how it benefits our well-being. What about some questions that are still lingering around this, but do I cry too much idea? All right. So why do we cry when we're not sad? You know, the moment where you're like, I don't even know why I'm crying. Crying is a response to emotional intensity like joy, awe, anger, nostalgia, shame, and even relief. It's your body's way of letting you know that something that you're going through or in the moment of really does matter to you. Again, your divinely designed body is sending you a signal so that you can know yourself. All right. Crying is the symptom to the root of a problem or the origin of something. So, what are the benefits of emotional tears? So, it's a regulation tool. When you cry, your body usually transitions out of fight or flight because you're crying in response to a survival mechanism. And so you need to be grounded so that you know that you're safe after the tears stop. The tears help lower stress. They help release built up emotions because you know sometimes you're hanging on, and then there's just a breaking point. The emotional tears strengthen your relationships by signaling to others that you're in need of support. It's when your husband or your friend or your kiddos come give you a hug, even your fur babies. They know. They also know. Typically, after a good cry, people feel clearer, lighter, and more connected to their emotions. I mean, just stop and reflect a second about after, the moments after you're done crying. You really do feel better. There's something that has been released that you are grateful for. And so that moment of gratitude, that your body's working well, that it's aligned with your emotional body, is all cause for celebration. Here's the one that I really wanted to get to. Why do some people cry more than others? I was telling my husband not too long ago, I think this body must have been equipped with millions of tears. I just cry more than other people. I think I just have reservoirs of tears. And that's okay because it's the way I'm made. It's the way God made me. It's okay that it's not the way God made other folks. But sometimes it just feels like because of the way society relates to tears and crying as usually a sign of weakness or hysteria when it comes to being a woman, that is somehow bad or wrong, or you should feel shame, or like you should, toughen up if you are a crier. But I just feel like I just get equipped with so many tears. What do I do about that? And then you're asking yourself, well, is something wrong with me? So this question is so poignant for me. Why do some people cry more than others? The amount you cry is influenced by a mix of biology. So literally, we're talking about me and my sister being crybabies because of genetics. That's real. So check. Your upbringing. Did you have a permission structure within your household to be able to cry, or was crying off limits, or was crying a source of embarrassment and you were made fun of or made to feel shame about? Social conditioning. We are just now, thank goodness, moving through this idea that boys don't cry, right? Finally, we are in a space where we see men publicly crying, and I celebrate that because as a mother of boys, you want them to feel their feelings so that they know appropriately how to handle them, right? Girls too, of course. But social conditioning around crying is definitely changing. Also, the hormone estrogen. It can make some people more prone to tears than others. So think about that. If you're a woman with more estrogen than another woman, you probably have more tears, right? And of course, women have more estrogen than men. So naturally, we have more tears. So just think about that in terms of your hormone situation as well. And then when you're in menopause and all the flux is happening, then that's a whole nother layer of it. All right. People who are more emotionally attuned or who were raised in environments where crying was accepted may also cry more freely. So then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm a free crier more than having more tears. Maybe I just am allowed to cry more freely. And I try to stay emotionally attuned. It's actually a personal value to be emotionally healthy. So tears are certainly in the soup, as you would say, around that. And then on the flip side, some people could have learned to suppress tears. Do you know that person? Are you thinking of somebody? I am. And especially if they were taught crying was a sign of weakness or somehow inappropriate. Okay, so there are people who cry more than others, and it's completely normal. Is crying for no reason normal? It's normal, and it's more common than we admit. Usually your body is responding to something you haven't fully registered yet. So you may not know why you're crying. You will know, but you just don't know in the moment because your body is doing the work of registering that and working through it. Also, this could be an emotional buildup, stress or sensory overload. Again, when we pile things on, pile things on, pile things on, and it's like the straw that broke the camel's back effect. Normally, it wouldn't bother you that the milk spilled, but because of work stress and because of money stress and because of, all the things, then that one thing that wouldn't have normally made you cry ultimately does. And it doesn't make sense to you in the moment, but the tears are representative of stress, not the spilled milk. All right. So do I cry too much? How to recognize normal versus excessive crying, because there are ways that crying is out of balance. So if we feel like we're crying too much, it can help us understand our emotional health and know when it actually might be time to seek emotional support, because again, it's a signal, it's a symptom, it's something that in our divine design is meant to give us a warning, a heads up, okay? So normal crying is in terms of a situational response. It's a direct response to a specific event, a thought, a feeling, typically triggered by an understandable and identifiable reason. It also provides relief. Crying would be followed by a sense of release or emotional lightness, indicating that the tears and the act of crying have helped you process your emotions. But now, what if that's a little bit different? So how do you identify excessive crying that might be out of balance or somewhat unhealthy? Excessive crying goes beyond the typical emotional responses and may indicate that there are underlying issues. And again, no judgment. It's just a signal. It's just a message that there are more things to think about and maybe additional steps that need to be taken. So watch for disproportionate reactions, crying over minor incidents or feeling overwhelmed by tears without a clear reason. Also, understand whether or not you've had a lack of relief after crying. Crying that leaves you feeling more upset or distressed without offering any catharsis or release is out of balance. And then think about if it's impacting your daily life. Crying that interferes with your ability to function in your day-to-day life, it's affecting your work or your relationships or social activities, should be looked into further. And then if you are crying excessively, what are the factors that might be contributing to that? It could be mental health conditions like depression or anxiety. It could be hormonal imbalances. Hi there, women in 40s, 50s, 60s. It could be unresolved emotional issues. I was talking about the trigger that led to some work from my childhood. And trust me, I really believe in therapy and have been in and out of it for most of my life. I think everyone should have a therapist and a counselor. It's like when you break your arm, you don't hesitate to go to the doctor and put a cast on it and allow the healing process to take place. We have emotional brokenness. We have stress and strains in our emotional body that also need to be tended to. And that's the function of counseling and therapy. It doesn't mean you have to be in it for every day, all the time, 100 years long. It means when you need it, you go seek it for as long as it takes for the healing process to take place. And there are different kinds of therapies to address different kinds of wounds that can be healed. So think about these unresolved emotional issues when there's excessive crying. Stress, grief, and even certain medications can also influence your crying patterns. And again, I reference my mother's passing. I know that I'm crying more simply because I am carrying grief with me every moment of every day in the missing her and adjusting to life without her here in the physical. That's a huge adjustment. I don't know that I will ever be used to it. I'll learn how to live with it, but I'm at the beginning of that journey. Of course, the tears are at the top, right? So, when do you know that you need to seek help for crying? Basically, if you feel like you are concerned that you're crying too much, that's your first indicator that maybe you want to talk to somebody. If your tears feel uncontrollable and overwhelming, you probably want to talk to somebody. And a healthcare provider can help you determine whether your crying is within the range of normal, or if it indicates something more serious and you need to further address it. And thank God for modern medicine. And like I said, all kinds of therapies that you can help address if it is a little bit out of balance or out of the norm. So there is going to be the inevitable time and space that is public or professional where you may not be able to hold back the tears. And then you'll be, part of the Katie Cry Club. So welcome. But let's talk about tips that when that inevitable time comes that you can stop yourself from crying in that setting. With the right strategies, you can learn how to stop crying when you want to. Please know I am in active practice with this so that my superpower can, be controlled. Like any superhero's power needs to be learned and controlled. All right. So this will help you to maintain your composure while acknowledging and respecting your emotional needs simultaneously. And I just would like to reiterate that this is an opportunity for growth. Not everyone deserves your tears. Plus, the judgments and false narratives that might come from those people's misjudgment of your tears and emotional exploitation of them, you don't need that in your life. So learning the tips on how to, keep it in check is going to be very beneficial. And don't look at look at it as a suppression of your emotions, but rather managing them in a way that feels appropriate to you and serves you even more. All right, so number one, practice deep breathing. We know that literally breath is healing, right? So deep breathing can be a powerful tool to calm the nervous system. Just think about when we have our little ones and they are doing like the hyperventilating type crying and we're like, just breathe, just breathe. This is not different for you, okay? Just breathe. And that will calm the nervous system so that you can reduce the emotional intensity. When you feel the urge to cry coming on, like you just can feel them working up, take slow, deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, hold it, and then exhale slowly through your mouth, as many times as it takes. Then know that this can decrease immediate emotional responses and provide a sense of calm, which is what you're looking for, is calming. You want to get control of the emotion. Number two, use distraction techniques. So diverting your focus can prevent the onset of your tears. Engage your mind in a different activity or thought process. So for example, you might want to count back from 100 or focus on something in your surrounding or think about a neutral or a positive topic, because then you're going to go into your cognitive body versus your emotional body. Number three, physically blink and look upward, right? So blinking rapidly to help clear away the tears and prevent them from spilling over. And then looking upward can also keep the tears back and afford you a moment of composure. You know, the breakup moment when we just don't let him see you cry, don't let him see you cry, and you're just doing exactly that move, looking up and blinking. There is rationale to it. There's a reason for that. Okay, number four, ground yourself physically. This one is so critical. Press your feet firmly into the floor. Again, it gets you out of the emotional body and into your physical body. Clench and unclench your hands because you're focusing then on the feeling in your physical body. Focus on the sensation of an object that you're holding to help shift your focus from the emotional distress to that physical sensory. So like a pen or something like that. Okay. Also, if you can, get barefoot and go put your feet on the earth, either in the grass or on the dirt. That emotional energy you can exchange with the earth so that you literally are grounded. That energy will move into the earth. Number five, develop a mental escape plan. Love this one. Think about a happy place that you can visualize when you are feeling overwhelmed. I have identified when I met Cinderella at Disney World as my happy place. So if I think about that moment, I am literally ecstatic every time I think of it. And thinking about a place or a memory that brings you joy or peace can provide mental refuge from the stressors. So have those in your back pocket to pull out when you feel the tears coming and you don't want them to. Number six, excuse yourself if necessary. If you're getting too overwhelmed and it's okay to excuse yourself from the situation, give yourself permission to do so. This can provide an opportunity for you to use some of these other coping mechanisms that we've talked about in order to regain composure and continue on. Number seven, seek supportive connections. Reach out to a trusted colleague or friend for support if you can. Like for instance, that day that I had that meeting I've been telling you all about, I went right to my friend and was like, could I please have a hug? And of course, she offered me a hug. Sometimes sharing your feelings can reduce the intensity of the emotion. So just getting another form of getting it up and out of you. And then use relaxation techniques. Progressive music relaxation or visualization can help calm your mind and body. And these reduce overall stress and emotional reactivity. So I don't know if you know about binaural beats. Those are amazing and really can be helpful. All right, so let's talk about how you, again, just one last review on how you differentiate healthy crying or crying that needs attention. Remember that if it's healthy crying, you can relate it situationally, and that you feel a sense of release and relief after the crying episode. And then it will require attention. If that does not happen, you can't identify why you're crying. If it's excessive and it doesn't provide any relief and it's interfering with your life, then you probably need to talk to somebody. And then, can certain lifestyle changes reduce the frequency of the crying episodes? So this was highly interesting to me and resonated deeply. Regular exercise is a lifestyle choice that can help regulate the emotion. Physical activity can boost mood, as we all know, and reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, which in turn reduces the frequency of crying episodes. Adequate sleep, getting enough rest, can improve your overall emotional well-being and resilience. And here we are all about resilience. A healthy diet. Nutritious foods can impact your mood and energy level that contribute to better emotional balance. We know the better things go in, the better results coming out in all aspects of our life. And then last but not least, mindfulness and meditation. These practices can help you manage stress and become more aware of your emotional triggers, giving you more control over your emotions. And so that centering, that daily peace and peace of mind, and hopefully we're always carrying peace in our hearts that we can access, but being intentional about that through our meditative and prayer practices can only be of benefit. And then lastly, the social support. Build a strong, supportive relationship construct in your life that provide outlets for expressing your emotions and reducing feelings of isolation and stress, especially because you're feeling safe to do so within your network. With all of this around tears and crying and yours truly being a crybaby, maybe you can relate. Maybe you are relieved to know that tears are normal. Maybe you feel like you need to call up a counselor or a doctor or your safest sister friend. Maybe you know you need to brush up on your exercise or meditation prayer life. Leave a comment and tell me if you relate. What do you relate to? What's resonating for you in all of this? And do you also identify as a crybaby like me and my sister? I'd love to know all my fellow crybabies out there. My question for myself in diving into this topic was, do I actually cry too much? What is clear for me after diving into this tear topic is my answer is no, I don't. And yes, I do. No, because my biology and the way God made me with a lot of tears. No, because my family culture. We cry in my family of origin. We also cry in my family that we've made together. My hormones. I'm a menopausal woman. There's a lot of changes going on. My sensitivity level. I'm a sensitive person, always have been, highly sensitive. That comes with tears. My work, my personal and spiritual growth through the judgment and permission to give myself my tears and an opportunity to cry. And when I say work, I mean like my emotional, mental, personal growth journey. No, I don't cry too much because in a season of massive personal grief and societal grief, where does it all go? There has to be tears. It's got to go somewhere. The feelings are enormous. No, I don't cry too much because I'm under a lot of work stress. That has to go somewhere. I believe in doing a good job. And I believe in collecting haters so that I can continue to do a good job. So, yep, that's going to result in some tears sometimes for me. Also, no, because tears bring relief and they give me a reason to check in with myself. They're a gauge about whether or not I'm feeling the way I want to be feeling, or if the feeling is appropriate for the setting, for me, not because someone else has decided whether or not it's appropriate. So no, I don't cry too much. And yes, I cry too much because at times I do feel like my tears are uncontrollable. And that kind of gives me a little bit of an alarm. Yes, because it is affecting elements of my work life. And this idea of appropriate and the perception that crying at work or crying, publicly is unacceptable or inappropriate truly is subjective, but we know that in the world in which we move, perception is everything. So not being judgmental of myself, but just having that awareness and then using those tools we've just talked about to manage it is going to serve me well. And then, yes, because I've still got some stuff from childhood that I continue to discover and uncover and work through. So my next steps, so I'm wondering about your next steps too, if you're thinking about this, is that I'm going to always give gratitude for awareness and for the experience of the messy middle and my story, and the fact that God's grace has carried me through every day up until now and will continue to carry me for all the rest of my days. And that is a personal truth that I know, and I will just continue to be grateful and stand in that. My next step is to continue to see my therapist and work through the underlying issues of my life that create resilience in me and give me the strength to talk about this without shame with you. And my next step is also to increase my exercise and meditation routines to increase an overall sense of well-being for my body, to be able to be in tune with it and regulate it, but also meditation practice and prayer practice so that that peace that I know lives inside of me is what presents at the fore instead of some of that emotional intensity that I sometimes don't know what to do with, okay? So tell me what your takeaways are and your next steps in the comments. Whatever it is, be real enough to see it, resilient enough to stay in it, rooted enough to grow through it, and radiant enough to shine through it all. If you love what we're building here, like the channel and share so you can reach and I can reach more incredible women who might be able to relate to us. And check out next week's show. All right, y'all, I'm out before I start telling you another story you're not ready for. See you next time.